how would a cap expert build out the 76ers this summer? What would their strategy be? Well, today we are going to react to an article from a cap expert, a capologist, as I like to call them, and that is Keith Smith. He does great work over at Spotrac as one of the main guys, deals with all the contract stuff and the cap stuff, and he does a lot of NBA analysis. Great follow on Twitter, and I've interacted with him before, but today, he put out a huge article pretty much just summarizing what the Sixers options could be this summer. And I think it's really good knowledge to have as we move forward into the next couple of weeks. We don't have really much yet because the finals are ongoing, but after that, right, we're going to get a lot of news and rumors. So we'll be putting out right here on this channel a lot of draft coverage, free agency, etc. I mean, the Sixers essentially have to get 12 more players. So a lot to come, but for now, I think it's important to just kind of understand what the building blocks could be. But let me know your thoughts, Sixer Nation, down in the comments. Are you more on the side of let's get a third star? Are you more on the side of let's get quality role players? Where is your mind at? Give me your thoughts, and welcome into Philly Take with RB. If you do enjoy this content, be sure to hit the like button at the end of the video and subscribe if you are new. But I want to dive into this article because there's a lot of good stuff, okay? He pretty much put out one of these pieces for each teams, but when it comes to the Sixers, okay, actual cap space right now 109, practical cap space 61.3. That's the number we got to keep our eyes on, and projected luxury tax space 100 and pretty much 14 mil until the luxury tax. But keep your eyes on this 61.3 million under contract right now. Ricky Council, Joel Embiid, and Paul Reed on a non-guarantee. Tyrese Maxey is on that cap hold. We'll get to that. Here are all the free agents for the 76ers. We knew this was Daryl Morey's plan to get everybody on an expiring deal, and here they are. Nobody in dead cap. And then they have the room exception of the $8 million. So we'll get back to that. But as he says here, starting it off with a good joke, he says his simple dream is to see a team with a fully clean cap sheet someday. No salaries, cap holds, or anything on the books. And that this Sixers team is probably the closest we'll ever get to that. I mean, we know that, right? They are not hindered by a terrible, awful max contract this offseason for once. They have the full flexibility to go out there and build a roster. The question is, what route is Daryl Morey going to take? Is he going to take the risky one and pay a star $50 million and not have a lot of room to build out the rest of the team? Or is he going to adapt to the times, adapt to the trends, adapt to really what we're seeing in these playoffs, in these finals right now, and try to get really good role players around your two stars? So we'll have to wait and find out. But as Keith says, Joel Embiid with the lone fully guaranteed contract on the books right now, and that could hit the summer with only Embiid's 51.4 mil in the cap sheet and nearly 77 in cap space, but it won't go that way. So he talks about Tyrese Maxey, pretty much what you need to know about Maxey. He's going to get a max contract this summer. We remember when the Sixers declined to do it last year, but pretty much had it under wraps that it was going to happen this offseason. And instead of Maxey being on the books at over 35 million, he'll be on a cap hold of over 13 million. Think of that kind of like a placeholder. So we're technically going to go through this summer with the idea that Maxey will be on a 13 mil cap hold, but that'll give the Sixers 22 million additional cap space to use this summer. And then once they use that cap space, they can then sign Maxey to a 25% of the cap max deal starting at over 35 million. So think of it as a way of playing the system. Maxey wins because he gets a bigger deal, and the Sixers get 22 million more in cap space to use this summer. Then he talks about Ricky Council. We're projecting that the Sixers will keep Ricky, as they should. I just put out a piece the other day about why he should play more. And his $1.9 million contract is only about $800K more than the minimum roster charge. Ricky, getting him on that 4-year deal at the end of the year was an absolute steal. And now the only other item we have on the Sixers books is the $4 million cap hold for the number 16 overall pick in the draft. And it says that it wouldn't be a surprise if Morey traded that pick at or after the draft. The Sixers cannot trade it before because of the stipend rule. So they can, you know, have a trade pretty much in the works and draft for another team, but they can't officially move that pick until after or during the draft because of the stipend rule, which means that they have to have a first-round pick, you know, in 1 year or the next. They can't have it 2 years in a row where they don't have a first-round pick. But anyway, with Embiid and Counsell with salary and cap holds for Maxey in the 16th pick, so essentially he's saying he thinks Paul Reed will get waived here, the Sixers would have over $61 million, right? Remember that 61.3 in cap space. That is the second highest projection in the NBA behind the Pistons. So what does Morey do with $61 million plus the $8 million room exception? The better question, what can't you do? Literally, you could do anything. You could bring in all these role players if you can find the right gems. Might have to trade for a couple guys, but the Sixers can bring players in this offseason without having to give anything up. People keep asking me, RB, how can we make a trade if we're not matching salary? Because the Sixers are going to have $61 million in cap space, so they can afford to, say, take it on and give off a draft pick if they wanted to. And, you know, it's not like they're going to go above the cap. So he says here that there is not a player that the Sixers could not trade for with that kind of cap space. And 35% of the cap max salary next season is $49.35 million. So that's what you're looking at. That figure when it comes to, say, a Jimmy or a PG, if you want to sign them or extend them, that's probably what it's going to look like. He says here, do they want to sign Paul George? They can offer him as much as anybody who isn't the Clippers. Do they want to trade for Butler? Sign 4 or 5 role players for 10 to 25 mil a piece and build depth around Embiid and Maxey. Now we're talking. It's not that signing a max free agent or trading for a third star are bad plans. They're not. It just has to be the right one. Exactly. And is there the right one? Is Paul George the right guy who hasn't really shown up much in the playoffs and has gotten hurt? What about Jimmy Butler, who's getting up there and is not as durable? How about LeBron? How about Kevin Durant? How about Ingram? Any of these guys, are they the right guy? Do you know that for a fact? You cannot trade and give up assets and then sign these guys to maxes if you know, or if you don't know that they are the right guy. Embiid has a well-chronicled injury history. He's going to miss time every year. If an injury pops up at the wrong time, it could sink the season. Exactly, because then you have no other depth. You can't acquire depth, and pretty much you're screwed. Signing George or trading for Butler would be splashy moves. They could even be great moves, but those two are older and have their own injury issues. If Embiid went down and either George or Butler was to follow, the season would be sunk. So again, you're putting a lot of risk. You're not diversifying your portfolio. And it says if Philly could get a third star that was a lock to play 70+ games and make it through a long playoff run, they should do it. But those players are not usually available. You know where you get those players? In the draft. Sixers have to draft well. Unfortunately, not a strong draft class this year. We're going to do a lot more draft coverage going forward. But as he says here, the less risky approach is to build out the team's depth. Embiid and Maxey are all-stars, and that's underselling the duo. They could be all-NBA guys. They carry a well-built roster without needing a third star to help. If Philly goes the depth route, they'll be ahead of the game for most of the free agents available. Guys are going to have opportunities here, right? They're going to get more money by coming to Philly, who has a ton of cap space. It says they can offer starting spots, minutes, shots, rotation, roles, and of course, money. Given that they'll need basically everything except for a starting center and a starting point guard, it becomes a game of scan the free agent list and take your pick. Obviously, you got to sell them on the idea of Philly with Maxey and Embiid, but I don't think it's as hard of a sell as a lot of people think. He says here, one suggestion, the Sixers should prioritize signing a good to very good center as a backup. In a perfect world, they'll have overspent for a 15-minute per game backup. In a more realistic world, they'll have some candidates for people who can step in and provide solid minutes should Embiid go down. Those candidates are old friend Andre Drummond. Yes, I would take him. Goga Bitadze? Hell no. Mo Wagner? No. Jalen Smith? Big risk, in my opinion. Hasn't really done much. Valanciunas. Jonas Valanciunas. What about him? Could he be a backup center for Philly? I do kind of like that idea of getting a more traditional backup 5. I think it's a great point from Keith. You know, in case Embiid goes down, we saw it this past season. Daryl Morey didn't go out and get another big. We were suffering watching Reed try to start for 35 minutes and then watching Mo Bamba in his relief. You know, can the Sixers go out and get a Valanciunas or a Drummond? I think it'd be a good idea. And if it comes down to it, you know, you can have a backup plan. If Embiid gets hurt for 40 games, you're not going to sink the season like you did this year. You should have got Daniel Gafford, if we're being honest. We're going to hear the Philadelphia 76ers connected to every major player in the rumor mill, be it free agency or trade. That's what happens when you have stars in place, money to spend, and you're a ready-made contender. Now it's up to Daryl Morey to deliver after a year of planning for a big offseason. Ladies and gentlemen, I honestly don't know what to expect. This is a great piece that summarized it well. $61 million in cap space. You don't have the Ben contract, the Al Horford contract, the Tobias, none of it. You have the flexibility to go out there and build a perfect roster. If Daryl Morey and the Sixers do not get it done this summer, they all need to go. Everybody needs to clean house, because this is a GM's dream coming into a team with 2 cornerstone building blocks and all the cap space in the world. I don't care if it's free agents, if it's a trade, whatever. Draft, you got to get it done right now. They have the perfect blueprint right here. Will they execute? We'll have to find out. What do you think the Sixers should do? Give me your thoughts down below. Kind of like I've been saying, the smarter route is probably to go with role players, but you got to find the right ones, and that's pretty much what Keith was saying. So we'll see what happens. Give me your thoughts, and I will catch you all on the next one. Peace.